what grade are you? Yeah,
I'm
go
a
ahead.
junior.
Junior. Okay.
Yes. So, just to clarify, you are not speaking for your company, and these are all of your personal opinions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And like there may be examples that I give you where I could tell you what I did, but I can't give you the exact name of the company I worked with. So just
Yeah.
so you're
Okay.
aware.
Perfect. Could you start by introducing yourself, your role in the industry, and your area of expertise?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So yeah, my name is Isaac. I currently am a senior solutions architect at Databricks. So Databricks is a software technology company focused in the analytics and AI space. And so I've been, working full time for 7 years now. The first 4 years were at Microsoft. The first 3 years of that, I was sort of in their consulting division as a data scientist, helping, essentially when other companies don't have the in-house data science expertise, I would be working with them to actually build machine learning models on their behalf. Then I spent 1 year on one of the product teams within Microsoft, in sort of more of the analytics and dashboard and metric space. And then I moved over to Databricks as a solutions architect, which essentially what that means is kind of, um, technical sales and guidance for um, Databricks, which is a analytics and AI product. And so working with customers across a lot of different industries to help them with understanding how they could use our tools to do analytics and to do AI. And I'm happy to go into any, details of that or give you examples of projects, but I know, yeah, hopefully that
That's
helps.
really
Happy to answer
cool.
any follow-up questions on that.
Yes. And so you have just answered the
Mm-hmm.
next question, how long have you been in your field? So, over the course of,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was 11 years you talked about more, how has AI
Seven, yeah.
impacted your work over these years?
Um, I mean, it's sort of what I studied in school when it was starting to become emerging of like, hey, every company, every industry needs to use analytics. They're starting to do machine learning. So that's what kind of got me interested. But since the start, I've been working in tech that's been on sort of the cutting edge, and I've been working with companies in different industries to adopt AI. So like that's been like my whole career is literally just helping companies of every industry from logistics companies to ad companies to healthcare companies, leverage AI. So it's really just been everything. But I could give more examples if you'd like as well.
You picked a really good major.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because, I was trying to decide what to do in college, or for college, and like, I didn't really want to do engineering,
Yeah.
and I didn't really want to do, like arts and sciences or something too, like abstract. I wanted to do something more like practical, so I chose business and I chose finance. And then while I was in that, I learned about analytics. So I ended up creating my own major in analytics. And then from there, like interned in data science and then started working at Microsoft. So, um, yeah, it was just sort of, I eventually got there, but it wasn't even where I started.
That's really cool. But eventually you got there. Um,
Yeah.
so in your words, how would you explain what generative AI is and how it works in your industry?
Yeah. So, I mean, let me try to explain it the best way possible. Um, Generative AI is essentially, you have these large language models, which are machine learning models trained on just lots and lots of text data. It could also be, generative AI could be images as well. So just large volumes of data. So like all of the text on the internet, all of everything, from websites to social media to books. It takes all of that, and then these large language models or these vision models learn patterns from all of that text data to be able to, essentially understand sort of natural language and be able to respond to natural language questions by predicting, what would be based on all this learned information of the English language, what would be, um, the right answer. And that could be in the form of, you know, uh, generating text. So you could ask it, write me a poem about this, and it'll generate text for that. But it could also do other things like sentiment analysis and classification. These are things that used to be like discrete ML models, but we've gotten to a point where you have these large data centers and these GPUs that you could train such a big model that it's now this generalized model that could handle all kinds of different questions that used to be, you know, either not so good or require very specialized small models.
That's the
So was
most
that a two-part
in-depth
question? It was.
answer I've gotten. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And if any of this stuff like doesn't make sense or I'm going into too much detail, let me know.
No, I've done my own research on this. I just want to get like everyone's
Mhm.
perspective on everything. But if I have questions, I will ask. Thank you for that.
Okay. Was there a second part to that question, or is just what is Gen AI? I
And
can't remember.
how it works in your industry was the second
Oh,
part.
how it works in my industry. Okay. Yes. So my company, Databricks, builds or they have a tool that you could use for generative AI. So whether that's building your own large language models from scratch, like building your own chat GPT, or where we focus on is like, how do you not just use these out of the box models, but customize it for your organization? And so like a really cool example that I've worked on is I worked with one of the largest one of the largest talent agencies in the US. So you could think about it like talent agents are the people that work with like actors and sports people to connect them to movies or to you know events and things like that, right? They're sort of the go between. And so, what they wanted is to basically create a customized, in specific large language model for their industry based on their data that could do things like matching artists to venues. Based on all of the information they know about the artists, all of the information they know about the venues, let's connect the two. Or maybe you're a movie director and you're trying to find the right, actor or actress, um, based on the movie script and all this information about the people that they have, like you could say, I'm looking for, an artist with, that's starred in these types of movies and done these types of things. Those are the kind of like use cases that companies are using Databricks for generative AI, using generative AI.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
so do you currently use AI tools in like your workflow or business process?
Yeah, so when I was at Microsoft, I was more on the hands-on side when I started. So I was actually actively using these tools. And this was before generative AI, so classical machine learning models. So I was building machine learning models. For instance, like there was a large logistics company, so like a company that delivers packages and stuff like that. During like the COVID vaccine rollout, they were one of the companies selected to roll out COVID vaccines, but you have to keep them in like cold storage. You have to make sure the temperature and the pressure and everything is correct. So what I did is I would use some of these tools, which at the time even included Databricks, to bring in all that sensor data, the weather data, the map data, and make sure that like we could have, proactive alerts that, hey, like this vaccine is getting too warm or the pressure is not right. Like you need to go and fix this. So I was actively using those tools. And then now I've been sort of more of an advisory role where I might be using the tool to come up with an example, or I'm doing more of training and workshops with
Mm,
customers that are ultimately using these tools.
yes. So I've heard a
Although
lot.
I will add that I use generative AI all the time, like ChatGPT, to help me write
Oh,
code and
yeah.
stuff like
Can you
that.
talk
So,
more
like,
about that?
yes. So, like, there's sort of the B2B, like, business use cases that I help with customers, but in my daily life, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I am a heavy user of ChatGPT because it's my industry, because I'm interested in this stuff, and because I've tested it and found it useful. So yeah, I mean, there are times where I have to write up documents, or I'm writing up blog posts that I'm publishing about, technology I'm working on. And like, I'll probably write the first draft, or I'll come up with what I want to write, and I'll use like Chat GPT to help like shorten it or make it more succinct or make it like sound a little better. So I use it for kind of like peer review, and then I use it for code generation. And like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like for instance, I have like a whole internal website um, for like a subject matter expert team that I run. And like I don't know any HTML, I don't know any web development, and I had to write some custom HTML. And like I just told ChatGPT, here's the website I want to build, here's what I want to do, spit out some HTML, I'd test it. It'd be a little off. Hey, here's a screenshot. This is a little off over here. Send it back and like go back and forth. And so like I built this whole HTML website without knowing any HTML.
That's actually crazy. That's so cool. You can,
Mm-hmm.
wow. I want to try
Yeah.
that.
And
I
then
love writing
I'm supposed
code.
to be writing a lot of SQL code and like reviewing that, but I just have it do that a lot for me. And it gets me like 90% of the way there. So
If it works,
it's
it
been
works.
pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely saved me a lot of time and helped me do things that like otherwise it would have been too hard or taken me too long to learn. Like I'll be like, hey, let me test this out. I could probably actually do this now with like as long as I understand the basics and could like go back and forth with it, like it's got me to be able to do things I would have otherwise had to go to someone else.
Yeah. And that gets into our next question, which is how has it impacted your efficiency and creativity? We've talked about the efficiency part, so we could just talk about how it's impacted your creativity.
Um, Creativity is interesting. I mean, like every time I make a blog post, I'll have like an AI generated image. So
That's
it does
fun.
a good job with that. I don't know that it's really helped a lot with creativity. Like, yes, like it is great to have the tool to like generate images for me, or like have it make a new phone background for me, or I'll like um I like the image generators, but I don't think it's not making me any more creative. And
Mm.
like it might be helping with my writing, um, but it's more just like make my writing like shorter and more succinct. I don't know that that makes me more creative.
Yeah, that makes sense. My mother also uses it for phone backgrounds.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, I
funny.
think it's an adult thing. I don't really know any kids who do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, that was just like the most recent example I could think of, but yeah.
so we talked about how AI affects your workflow. How would
Mhm.
it affect workflows in schools?
Um, I mean, I'm in this
Wait, I'm sorry, you cut out. Could you repeat that?
like very fascinating. I mean, like when I was in
Oh,
school.
I'm sorry, you cut
Oh
out. Could
yeah.
you repeat
No,
that?
I'm interested in this space. Like I follow. Or could you still let me switch my
You've
Wi-Fi?
been cutting out a lot. I might need you to repeat that last answer. Oh,
Any
that's
better now?
better. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. I had to switch my Wi-Fi. Yeah, I was saying like because I'm like, you know, I work in this space, I'm very interested. I've been following a lot of that, and I think it's fascinating. Like, when I was in school, there was like Chegg or, Wikipedia and Google, and people would look up stuff. But now it's like you could go and ask ChatGPT and like give it a picture of your homework.
Hmm.
And like, you know, I think that's challenging, right? Because there are definitely going to be people like I have a deadline or I don't feel like doing this. Like I'm just going to throw it in Chat GPT and not actually go through the process of learning things. I still think there are other things where, teachers give too much homework or, it's what they're asking is impossible, or you could learn from like asking the chat bot back and forth. But like I think it's a huge challenge. I think it's a huge challenge for teachers and university professors. Like if they have an essay prompt or they have certain homework they used to give out, they have to like change what they're doing, to adapt with the times. And I think that's, difficult. Like, um, you know, it's a useful tool, I think, to explain and to go back and forth and like brainstorm and proofread. But it's also a tool that a lot of people, I'm sure, inevitably use to just like, write their essays and do their homework for them. I'm curious to hear from your perspective about that and like what
Yeah.
that's looked like, in your
So
classes.
that's exactly why I'm doing this project because,
Hmm.
well, everyone I know and they've shared their experiences with me. Like
Hmm.
so many people are using ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT, but I use it for research because when I do science,
Yeah.
I need to do mass amounts of research and now I don't have time because
Right.
I'm a junior. It helps me like maximize my time, but
Yeah.
I do feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, what if I just use ChatGPT to do this? And then I realize like I write a little bit better than ChatGPT if it's like creative writing. So I have to like
Right.
stick to my own work, you know? Um,
Yeah.
I don't think like any people I talk to really like use ChatGPT on their homework, but I do know that people do that. Every
Hmm.
single school now, or at least that I know of, has an AI checker, and it's really
Hmm.
ominous. Like, click this if you
Yeah.
to the honor code and receive no outside help. Like, okay, I will click that. I will click that.
Yeah, and that's a challenge in itself because there's going to be a lot of false positives, and it's going to
Yeah.
call things AI, it's going to call people and give them zeros when they didn't actually
I'm
use
always
AI.
so scared of that. I mean, the AI checker probably won't, but I I'm a writer. I like writing. I'm actually
Yeah.
a liberal arts person, and
Oh, cool.
a lot of people will accuse me of using ChatGPT. Like some of my
Mm,
classmates, they'll read my writings like, "Oh yeah, you definitely ChatGPT generated that." Like, be so for real.
yeah.
Just because I use the word pejorative does not mean ChatGPT did it for me. Okay.
Yeah. If it makes you feel a little better, I've been on sort of the other side of that, like in that I've done, interviewing of candidates and stuff. And like whether it's their writing or their code, it's a lot easier to tell that someone used ChatGPT than you might think.
It is. It
Like,
is.
yeah. So it's like a teacher that's been working with a set of students for a while, they'll be able to tell like what's your actual writing and like what's AI generated. Like there's certain ways that it does stuff, or even the way it like capitalizes stuff and organizes stuff. Like it's it's yeah, more obvious than people might think.
Another part that I'm interested in is accessibility. Obviously, generative AI was created to be accessible. Like with the LLMs, that's the reason they are large language models. Anyone can use them.
Hmm.
But because they exist, a lot of the accommodations that exist for students with learning disabilities are actually
Hmm.
harder to accomplish because now when
Hmm.
you have an essay, you can't really take it home and write it because of the issues with generative AI.
Hmm.
So we write them in class, and
Right.
we used to just write them in class, but now sometimes we have gone back to writing them by hand. One, my hand hurts because I write a lot, and two, like students with dyslexia or other learning abilities, their accommodations are like it's way harder to give it to them with like in class physical writing.
Hmm. I mean, that's very interesting. Like, I would assume if they need to use, a computer, a screen reader, or whatever, like in class, like they should make those accommodations. Like, um, yeah, or like if they need to go in a separate room or have extra
Yeah.
time, like I've definitely had, classmates that they have to take tests in a separate room and have extra time. Like, those should be that should be happening.
It still
And
happens. It's just
yeah.
like there's a new process with it. Like your
Mm,
accommodations before you have to like talk through them again, if that makes sense.
right. It's like, you know, you used to be able to have an emotional support pet on a plane and then everyone, abused that. So now it's a lot harder.
Oh.
It's
You
it's
used to
like
have that's so cute. I
yeah,
love
people would just like put like buy something on Amazon that says like, emotional support animal and they'd put it on their pet so they could bring them on the plane with them. But now like a lot of places like have caught on to that. So now it's a lot harder if you want to like register it or whatever. So like I think it's sort of the same way. Like the people that actually need the accommodations, like it's now harder for them and they have to go through more steps because
Mhm.
other people are abusing things.
Yeah. There's like a lot more work that has to be done to ensure you get those accommodations.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's tough.
So in your opinion, how could generative AI be utilized to optimize the way people work?
I mean, I think it's both. There's both like you know, the employee level and the manager level.
Mhm.
Like from the employee level, um, it's important to understand these technologies, both what they can be used for and what the limitations are. Like, understand that it's not going to be the best thing to write things from scratch, but it's a great tool to like revise your writing or give you suggestions or brainstorm. Like, understand it's a good tool to help you with coding, but if you don't know anything about coding, like, don't assume it'll magically do all those things for you.
Yeah.
And then the manager level, it's like an expectations thing too. Like, just because your employees have access to Chat GPT doesn't mean you can expect twice the output from them and it'll automatically write all their code for them or, all their papers. And like, I think there's managers that are starting to kind of abuse that too. Like, oh, we could lay off this many people or we could expect twice the productivity from our employees because they have Chat GPT. Like, I think there needs to be like a better understanding from both sides. And then you could start to use it to like enhance what you're doing, do things faster. I think the most useful thing is like if you just have like lots and lots of documents you need to go through. Like if you're a researcher and you have like, you know, 300 you have like 300 academic papers to go through and they're like 100 pages each, like generative AI is a great way of like just upload all these PDFs. It'll go through, it'll summarize it, and it'll point you to which paper you then want to go and then like review again. So it's like what used to have to be like skimming through all these to find a paper, you can now do that in seconds. Like that, I think is really powerful.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of what I do with research because I do not want to read 26 scientific articles.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, or some of these scientific articles might be from like 100 years ago and like super, super dense and like hard to read. And you could just be like, hey, take this and like explain it back to me at like, the 12th grade level or whatever.
How do you think generative AI impacts innovation?
Um, I think there's like a spectrum on this, like from like the AI doomers that think that generative AI is like going to destroy the world, and like the AI optimists like Sam Altman that think it's going to fundamentally change society and no one will have to work again, and it'll be like Wall-E if you ever seen that
No one
movie.
will have to work again.
Yeah, I mean there are people that are like it's gonna be the most profound thing since the internet, and everything's gonna be automated, and you'll have robots and AI doing everything for you. Like obviously, like the truth lies somewhere in between. It's hard to even look like 10 or 15 years out because of how quickly this stuff is changing. But I mean, the current like I think there's a lot of really positive things that could happen from this stuff. Like you could speed up like drug discovery, and drug development, which could have a huge impact on society. Like
Yeah.
you could make people a lot more productive. Like these tools like are very accessible. Like anyone could use them. It used to be that like only rich people could get access to like tools to like help them learn faster, like have a tutor, have, this and that. So like I think it has a lot of potential. Um and then there's also like legitimate like concerns about these things or how they're being used by bad actors as well. So I think there's both sides. I don't think it's like as profound as like some people, in the industry are saying it is, but I think it like, it's like an inflection point. Um, we've there's been a lot of stuff in AI and natural language processing for a while, but now it's like I mean, if you use this stuff, like it's very convincing. Like, and it keeps getting better. Like, yeah, it could write a convincing article or it could give you a convincing answer, but now like you look at like O1 from OpenAI and it has like reasoning capabilities and it could like it's now at the level of like a math Olympiad or like ChatGPT's advanced voice. Like I've never like I've had all there's been Siri and Alexa and Google, but they all kind of suck. But like OpenAI's like advanced voice, like it's the most natural sounding voice. Like it even has the ums and ahs and like if you're not careful, like you could easily be tricked like that you're just talking to a person. And like it could also you could like show it something and it'll like sees it and understands it. Like it's very, very impressive. Like it's hard to see where it's going, but like there's a lot of potential ways that it could help, but I don't think it's going to be as extreme as some people think.
That reminds me of the character AI app. It's a big
Hmm.
thing with like kids because
Yes.
you can
Yes.
create your own character. And now I think this just came out like a few months ago. You can like call with the characters, and it's so funny because you can upload like clips and it'll make the AI sound like what the
Mhm.
character sounds like. And it's really funny.
Yeah. I think even Snapchat at some point had something where you could like,
The
take a few
AI,
seconds
the
of someone's voice.
Snapchat
Yeah,
AI.
yeah. Yeah, but there's even one, I don't know if it was released or not, where it could like, you know, speak in someone's voice or something. Um, but yeah, I mean, that stuff is cool. Um, I don't know how useful like character AI is like for society. um, but I think character AI it's super interesting. So, um, it's not a paid endorsement, but there is a podcast called Hard Fork. It's from a New York Times tech journalist and Kevin Roos and Casey Newton, who has Platformer, like a tech newsletter. They recently did an episode about character AI. I would highly recommend listening to it. It is like, hopefully, it doesn't make you too depressed about the thing that you like using and your classmates like using.
It's not
But
like using them. It's like funny ironically. If
okay,
yeah.
okay, it's like ironic. It's just like like a TikTok that has like some historic figure like explaining some like math concept or something like that sort of thing. Okay. There was someone, I think like a 14-year-old, and I think
I
he,
read that. I know that
Yes,
story, yes.
yes, yes. It's really sad because some of this stuff is so convincing, and people that are very lonely, and maybe people that have, you know, psychological conditions, they might think that these are real, and there's like real harm and consequences if you don't have the right guardrails. So I think it's like a cautionary tale because rather than leading someone like that to like, mental health services, like it tried to like stay in character, and that is like a very problematic thing. So I think it's like, it's a good example of like where the CEO thinks like this will be a cure for loneliness, it'll be great. And maybe some people and maybe adults that suffer from loneliness because there's a loneliness epidemic in this country, like maybe it's helpful for them and they could see the difference between reality and fiction. But when you have like kids that, whose brains aren't fully developed or can't make that distinction because they have some mental condition, like it's, there's some real, potential harm.
Yeah, that's really sad.
It is really sad.
Moving on to a lighter topic.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry to take your white topic.
no, it's
Yeah,
okay. I
if
would,
you are interested in this industry, I would recommend that podcast, checking it out, Hard Fork, and that specific episode. It's a really good insight.
okay. So, do you have any concerns that generative AI might undermine the development of employees' critical thinking skills in your industry?
I mean, in my industry, in tech, and people working on this stuff,
Yeah.
no, because like you have to have the like brightest, most talented people that could like actually like build this stuff. Um, but writ large in society, like I think it's a huge problem. If people go through schools and they're dependent and relying on these things, and they're not going through the process of thinking and learning, and then they're getting to the workforce and they're, pretending they could do something, and then they go and use, Gen AI to do all these things for them. Like, I think it's a huge problem. I mean, I think there's limitations on this stuff today. I don't think you could like really fake it till you make it kind of thing with it. But as it gets better, it'll become even more and more of an issue.
Yeah, it'll be harder for AI checkers to detect it.
I
Um,
mean, even if the AI checkers get better, like there's nothing that tells me I can't use like, in schools they'll have restrictions, but like
right.
in the workforce, like there's nothing telling me that I can't use this. In fact, my CEO, given that we're in this industry, he pays for me to get Chat GPT Premium. And like I use this, they encourage everyone to use this like in their day to day.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice because like I know how to use it in the right way. But if people are trying to use it like instead of their work, right? If it's writing every one of their emails and like they're just trying to chill, like they're not going to learn a lot. And they're, I mean, I think it catches up to people eventually, but it's still a lot of you know issue in the meantime.
My mother uses it to write her emails, unfortunately. But actually the final
I mean,
project,
that's also fine. Like, I think it's great for people who like English is not their native tongue.
oh,
Like,
well,
and
yeah, that's
don't
true.
like, I think it's useful in that way. But like, it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't write all your emails from scratch, or you like,
No.
even if you're the process of going back and forth and prompting it and improving is better. But like, if you just give it one prompt and copy and paste that to an email, like, that's problematic.
Yeah. Actually, I'm hoping the final product for this project will be like an AI literacy class in my school to actually
Hmm.
teach people how to use AI
Hmm.
instead of submitting an essay from scratch from ChatGPT, because
Yeah.
usually that's not going to be a very specific essay. So,
Right. No, I mean, that would be great. I mean,
mhm.
students need it, teachers need it. Like there are a lot of useful things you could do with this stuff, and like you can't pretend it doesn't exist because it's going to be so important to every job and
Yeah.
college and everything.
So, What specific skills do you think might be weakened by Gen AI, specifically in students?
Um, as you were saying, like critical thinking skills, like there's a lot that you learn from like struggling through a problem, having to like go back to the textbook and learn it, or like talking to a tutor, talking to someone else, like just that problem solving skill and like how to address like something that you haven't seen before. Obviously writing skills, like, creative writing skills and, spending the time actually thinking through things and writing them down and, going through that iterative writing process. I mean, uh, those are the two main ones. I don't think that it's so good that it could like, do math homework that well. But it will get there.
Yeah, it will. Oh, also, I refuse to pay for Zoom Premium, so we only have 45 minutes. I
That's
will
fine.
need to send you another Zoom link because there are more questions.
That's fine. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, just send it on LinkedIn. Also, very impressed by the fact that you have a LinkedIn already as a high school junior.
Thank you. I was like working on it. I had my resume, then I'm like, no, I need to keep working on this. So I decided not
Yeah.
like put that.